Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Week 8 DraftKings Picks and preview. Reminder to smash the like. Although there is no video for this episode, we have had technical issues within the studio, so audio only for today. Hopefully we get that all cleared up. Hopefully we have our new product in time for the Sunday show. If not, it's a game time decision on the Sunday Night Live show as of right now. But that's okay. We do have Ben Raza lined up for all of that. Playing the Listeners League, that's down there right now. There's about 900 spots available for the week. RunTheSims.com/Mayo to get yourself 10% off. The Optimizer, all of the betting tools, all the fun stuff like that. And sub to Mayo Media Network. Download the podcast, all that fun stuff. Tambo's still here in studio. It's weird not doing it with the cameras, right?
Yeah, it's fine with me as long as we can get it out there for the people. I love it. We get to talk through it. Helps me. I think it helps others for the slate, so it'll still be a good show.
I mean, what are people going to do with all the visuals of your handsome face?
It's probably for the best we stick to this way.
All right, well, let's run through. I'm on runthesims.com right now. I'm going to go to the classic Optimizer and see what we got going on in terms of what is going to be the optimal lineup this week. I'm guessing it spits out Tua, would be my guess on this. Yeah, Tua, the quarterback. Tony Pollard now likely without Zeke is jammed in there. Noah, why is Noah Fant? I've been seeing this all week. Like Noah Fant.
DK Metcalf.
But it's not like Fant is like the clear number one tight end in Seattle. Like
yeah.
if it was a guy Parkinson from last week, or if it was Will Disley, like.
It still could be Disley, but like I said, it's just a guy that they're going to say there's a bigger body they can find. He's been getting a little more work lately as well, so I can see it, but I think it's more of a cash game play or something if you wanted to go there just to save the money. There is other options, though.
I do feel like that's the same way, like DJ Moore is getting spit out everywhere as well. That although the Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard 1-2 punch at running back is pretty good. I think I would just pay down from Barkley for like Ken Walker or something like that and not have to have Noah Fant in my lineup.
Yeah, you could look at it that way as well. Although, again, we've got one of those interesting weeks. There's a lot, the buys, the way the primetime game's set up. So no Kelsey, no Andrews. Kittle was a thing last week, but does that matter for this week? He's kind of up there, and then after that, it gets pretty bland. So I think you're going to have to look at your overall construction for sure.
I like Higbee at 4,200. Yeah. Like I'm not sweating the return of Van Jefferson that much.
I wouldn't be, but I also think Higbee's just going to be the, your 5 for 60 guy, and he's up there. There's guys that's why the $2,800 guy will pop more than Higbee.
Is he the 5 for 60 guy though? The guy's averaging like 10 targets a game.
Yeah, but he just maybe that's to say he gets the targets, falls on him. We'll see. Like he's playable for sure. I just think when you look at the setup, that is going to be the difference. It depends on what you think about running back. I actually like Barkley quite a bit for multiple reasons. I like Henry when we get there. There's going to be guys that you can spend up for, and then we're definitely going to talk about quarterbacks. So.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, we'll get into our Ehlinger type of debate here in a minute. I'm out, you're in is essentially
definitely
where we're at with this. Can you even stack him?
You could. I actually think that's a good way. I think a lot of people will play him naked. And I think if you want to go with someone like a Granson or a Pierce, put those guys in there. It's just a way to do it differently. And I have a real life example. Like I said, I gave it to you from last year. I ended up using Minshew at King of the Beach. Came second. He was 5,000. I know it's Minshew and we knew more about him, but we know some stuff about Ehlinger. So maybe we get into it right now. I just think that's the interesting piece of it is what the difference was. Nobody stacked Minshew for the most part. Nobody stacked Minshew that week. They just used him as a way to fit in all the other high ceiling pieces. But the ones that did the best stacked him with Goddard, who I believe got 2 touchdowns that week at a mid-tier price point. And they just crushed with those same other ceiling pieces, but they went off with their guy.
All right, so let's go through. Let's do the Ehlinger build right now. $4,000 as your quarterback. What does he need to score in order to make this viable for tournaments? Not for cash games, for tournaments.
I would want, 20, but if he gets me 16, 17, I definitely think it's possible still, depending. Again, that's always so subjective to be like, oh, if he gets me 14, I'm dead. If he gets me 16, I'm good. But
it also depends on the week, too.
It depends on what else happens, right? My point is if you go to him, what if the 3 ceiling guys get into the lineup and they are the actual ceiling guys this week? And you have that. That's how you get there, and that's the difference. There's always going to be 2v2s, though, that you can work around it.
So Alec Pierce is $4,600. Paris Campbell is $4,500. And then you talked about the tight ends. But I would struggle playing either Granson because it could be Jelani Woods. It could be Mo Alley Cox. Like, that has 0 written all over it if you pick the wrong guy. At least with Campbell. I mean, would you go up to Pittman?
Pittman's expensive this week. That would be the unique way to do it. If you want to say that Ehlinger hits his ceiling and it's because of another guy that hits his and it's Pittman, that would be very interesting in the large field stuff. But I think you'd be looking to go to the cheaper ones. You're kind of trying to fit in the Henrys, the Barkleys, the Jeffersons, if you want to get to Cup. I'm just using examples here, but when you don't have a pay-up tight end, and the defenses from 3,100 and down are actually viable, we'll get there way later. I'm just saying, when you have that setup of your lineup, you're going to end up on a similar setup, but there's ways to correlate the lineup enough. And we've seen that these past few weeks in tournaments where everyone's like, oh, that's the chalk lineup that won. But last week, for example, it wasn't about Higgins. If you had Chase and Boyd or Boyd and Hurst and allowed you to fit other stuff, yeah, you were on the same Burrow stack as everybody else, but it was not chalk, like people are saying. A bunch of chalk hit at running back, but they were good plays.
Yeah, that was the problem. I remember we talked through Burrow last week, and I was like, nah, and we were like, we're not chasing
I'm not chasing, I said.
And we didn't. I ended up losing all my money last week, but I put it into, like, I put the Run the Sims in the newsletter. You should subscribe to the newsletter, by the way. I put that down in there, and the quote was, the optimizer, the optimals this week love Bengals stack and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
And that, it just smashed.
Jacobs was 6,500 off a bye against Houston, like just a perfect smash spot.
And he was so owned, but you did actually need to have him.
Oh, he broke. That's what I'm saying. You had to have him. So the most people that had, I looked up all what I consider the best tournament players. The minimum anybody had was around 50%. Maybe one or two guys went 30% and sort of tried to play the field, even though he ended up coming in over that. So either way, it was a guy you had to have last week. He's a different story this week at $1,000 more in a different matchup.
So the difference is if you use Ehlinger and you save all this money off the hop, and you mention guys like Barkley and Henry. I like Henry more than Barkley this week, but that's me. I'm looking at the optimals right now, and again, this is going to change based on injury status and things like that, but Tony Pollard at $6,100 is in the optimal 24% of the time, and that is 5 percentage points higher than Justin Jefferson and DeAndre Hopkins and Josh Jacobs and Barkley. All of the other top plays, he is per value way better than them. He is going to be like 50% owned. He's going to be Josh Jacobs of last week.
Yeah. It's just, does he perform the same as Josh Jacobs last week? So that's
to bank on 100+ yards, a bunch of catches, and 3 touchdowns, he probably doesn't do that.
I'll have to go back and listen to last week's show because I forget. You do this at the top of every show. I forget what Jacobs' optimal was when we ran around the Sims.
It was the highest.
It was definitely the highest. I'm just saying I feel like it was higher than the 26%.
Nah, that's about the highest I've seen for a main slate. Do we just lock in Pollard then? Like, that price is so good.
I won't. I like him a lot, and it's a good chance to shine. But I don't lock guys in, so I don't care. But he may be a guy by the end of the week that I have 60% of if I feel like that's the play there. But right now, again, it all depends how you're setting up your total roster. On my Ehlinger rosters, maybe I don't need him. Maybe I plug him in on some. That's the best part. Back to the Ehlinger discussion for me is that, run him naked for a bunch of studs at running back. You pay down at wide receiver. Run them naked and then pay up at running back, pay the opposite, right? Sorry, pay these mid-tier guys at running back and get mid-tier across the board, a balanced version of it. And then the third piece is to obviously stack them. Like you said, you have to take some shots on the Pierces and the Campbells and those guys.
Do you have a preference, Pierce or Campbell? I
feel like Pierce is going to get steamed up because he's the deep threat guy. Ehlinger, I wouldn't call him a deep threat necessarily, but the guy that they would assume would be that guy. And the interesting part is that Campbell has been getting a little bit more involved. So what if they try and just stick with that? It's, that's who they can go to there. And then even like I said, if you want to do it differently, it worked with Minshew, Goddard, totally different talent levels, but it's roulette at the tight end. But I believe Granson was his guy in preseason. I'd have to go back and double check. But
was that because he was the only guy, like, was Mo Alley-Cox on the field?
Oh, for sure. But again, that's all to do with it. I think he was also using Desmond Patton, who's Patman or whatever, is now on the practice squad. That's not going to work. But I'm saying if you had some sort of rapport at any given time, we've seen that translate in other scenarios. So I wouldn't mind bringing that across as an opportunity.
I would just feel strange using him in a GPP and not having some out that if he does hit a ceiling, like he has his best career game, that I'm not able to cap it unless his best career game is 5 rushing touchdowns. And I really do think this rushing thing is overrated with him. I don't think that he's someone who's going to be out there, and maybe I'm stone wrong on that. But the way that people are talking about it, it's like, oh, well, if he goes like 9 for 52 in a touchdown, you're in business. Like, I don't think that's, just looking at his college numbers, like, that's not what he does. Like, he's elusive, but he's not Malik Willis.
I actually think if you don't want to play him in DFS, you should bet the over on those props. That's just you're out to hedge. If you just say, like, I don't think he's going to have enough upside to get me there in the tournament, I think it's very likely that he escapes and gets like 30, 40 on the ground. If they get close to the end zone, I think it's him that runs it in. Like, it's just, he's definitely capable. If you go watch the highlight reel on him, you're going to love him even more. When you see it, he's definitely very capable. It's just, and the price is $4,000. That's the difference. Like, here's an example. We can go further on. People love this on the show when we do this. Let's say you build your best Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, triple stack.
I mean, I was on with Al Smiz on his channel this week, and we did the cage match where you can't overlap with any players. But that was the lineup that I built. I used Tua, Hill, Waddle, and St. Brown.
Yeah. So let's just say you do that, and your situation is you just take Tua down to Ehlinger now and pick up $2,200. Mm-hmm. Remember, Tyreek can get there on end arounds. He can get all kinds of crazy shit going on. And then you've got Waddle gets you 8 for 80 and a touchdown. That doesn't necessarily mean that Tua got there. And then you'd still have $2,200 to spend in the same builds other people have that triple stack like you, and they're capped with it. It's just a unique way to go about it where, again, you might get, if he gets 20 and Tua has 24, that money goes a long way and you crush.
Oh, for sure. I apparently I just don't have the faith in Ehlinger that other people have. Like, as I told you earlier, I'm just playing Commanders defense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And those two things don't need to be independent of each other. But I think that he might be bad.
That's definitely a possibility. Again, you know my saying, it's not who you play, it's how you play them. I'm only looking for it from a game theory perspective, trying to get unique and different with it. And I don't even know. I don't watch college football. I don't care. Like, I know he's a Texas guy. I look up all the stats. I pay attention to it. I watch the big games. I'll wait for certain spots and pick my spots to watch it. But
this is no different than in the 2018 live final when everyone loaded up on Manziel.
Yeah, it happens. That's
was horrible.
Tebow got played plenty when he was in and playing games. Like, people do this based on that. But for me, it's all the game that we're playing, and it's a price thing. And like I said, if I can find a way to get different with it, I will. I'm not all in on Ehlinger, but I definitely think he's I hope people don't play him and he's 12% because I think that's bad. We'll wait and see what happens. I definitely think he's worth playing.
So Ehlinger, Paris Campbell, let's throw those in. We have $6,000 per player. So let's pick out a defense just to save a bit more money here.
Put like
it can be any defense that you want. It could be the Eagles D.
Do like the Jets versus Mac Jones or something.
All right, so Jets at 29 is what you prefer?
I'm just saying to get us around I thought they were 3K, but it's around 3K. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 29.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
Throw them in. So now we have $6,400 per player.
Okay.
So do you go completely balanced here? Is there a cheap tight end, a cheap wide receiver?
No, I think you start with what everybody else is going to do to find the build, and I would go with Pollard.
So
Yep.
Pollard at 61. Boom, he's in. Now we have 65 per player.
Do you think more people play Barkley or Henry?
Hey, the optimals and like optimizers, I believe, are going to spit out Barkley or, you know who they're going to spit out? Josh Jacobs at 7,500.
Still, what's Run the Sims got after Pollard? Who's it like?
Pollard, Jacobs, Ramondre, Barkley, Kamara.
Okay, go with Jacobs because he's still a lot cheaper than technically. I mean, 600 or more less than Barkley or Henry because Henry's more than Barkley.
So we have Pollard and Jacobs in right now. We still have $6,200 per player.
And now you got to put in Tyreek so people can still get a piece of it.
Tyreek Hill is $8,500.
He'll cut us down some.
But like when looking at the optimals right now, Hill is behind Jefferson and Hopkins and Kupp, although it loves Garrett Wilson.
By the way, just what you just said is also the fun part of the Ehlinger builds because we're building what we think is like a play the best plays version of it by like guys we like and like what we think people will be thinking of what they want to get a piece of. You just named like 4 stud wide receivers. Those are all options, but you can't get to them if you don't have the majority of your in your Ehlinger lineups. You can't get to them if you don't play enough Ehlinger to spread it out, was what I was trying to say. Go ahead, keep going.
Well, now we need to save some money because we're at $5,500. Do we want to go back up somewhere?
But we don't have a tight end yet, right?
We don't have a tight end.
And I don't
yet.
even think there's a tight end at 55. Maybe 57's the highest this week.
The highest tight end this week is Kittle at 57.
Yeah.
Waller's probably maybe not going to play. We don't know that as of right now.
Yeah. I mean, how much is Granson? Just out of curiosity. It's bad for this overall theory, probably, but I just want to see something.
2,700. Like I told you about Tanner Hudson. Rather play Tanner Hudson.
Well, actually, doesn't everybody love Fant at 2,800?
Yeah,
so
everyone
for $100
does love
less. You get the optimal version of what people are doing in cash games, and you take the guy that actually pairs up that he could throw a touchdown or two to. So I would just do that to get our money back for this lineup.
Yeah, okay.
Especially if you're playing large fields. Why are you not pairing him up? Like you said, you don't have to, but I like it. It would be part of getting him to a better score.
I just feel like, and listen, like Schultz is at $3,700.
So put him. Yeah, put him. It's fine, but we have Pollard if you want to play. But you can play both.
Yeah,
of them, no
I mean,
problem,
but Schultz, Freiermuth, they're all in that like high $3,000 area.
Yeah.
Like I just think those are better options.
So do that, because people that want to build this out can always go down to Granson after. I'm just saying, put in like a guy you like in the 3Ks to get us some money.
I'll put Freiermuth in at $3,900. We're back up to 63 for a wide receiver and a flex. So this can work
See what I mean? Like you just jam everybody. in
this can
lineup.
work one of two ways. You can go get your value wide receiver and have it work out. But I don't think that Chuba Hubbard's going to play this week.
Right.
Then you just have Foreman against Atlanta at like $5,300, I think he is. 53. So you use him as a flex. Now you have $7,300 for a receiver.
Pittman.
Pittman fits into that stack. You could go with Ceedee. You could go with Amon-Ra St. Brown and have the mini correlation between Tyreek and Amon-Ra as a secondary stack in that.
That's what I'm saying. You don't like the look of this lineup when you only need a starting quarterback at 4K to do anything?
Yeah,
Like show up, man. That's it.
And it does work out better with all the names that you mentioned that aren't on this slate at quarterback. It just feels like, have we seen a week this year where like the smash quarterback, like have we seen a millionaire maker winning lineup or a GPP winning lineup? I'm not talking about like small GPPs, but like mid-tier to upper tier that doesn't have the 38-point quarterback.
Yeah.
We haven't seen many because there's always been a quarterback or two throughout and maybe it is Ehlinger this week, Lord knows, but like
It's definitely not likely. The play with him, I mean, again, too, I should say, this is definitely better in smaller fields because of what you're stacking up. You don't need as high of a score to win those tournaments. But the point being, you're not going to get the 38 out of him. But if you get the 15 to 20 out of him and it allows you to get the 35s everywhere else, like 2 or 3 spots elsewhere in your lineup, a running back that goes for 35, a receiver that goes for 35, a couple other 20 to 25s, man, the volume you're packing into that lineup is substantial. So that's why it, at least to me, has to be under consideration.
what do you think are going to be the main stacks this week? Like where people are going to go to? Because I've identified like 2 that I like, and I don't think I'm alone on them. Just
Tua for sure.
Yeah, the 2 are. I'm not afraid of the Goff side either. Screw it.
I like that. We tried this last week, but this would be, to me, another spot to get after it again.
Hey, look.
Especially because it sounds like Swift is going to be back. Amon-Ra is going to be back. If that's the case, they're a little bit healthier now. I could see that meaning something here. So,
And you can still use Hill or Waddle or Mostert in that lineup too, because I think that becomes the big question about Pollard right now. Yes, obviously Pollard is in a fantastic spot, but I do think that there's other value running backs around the same price tier that are now potentially way under-owned because of this, from like what we thought on Tuesday to what's happened now. Like, what does Ken Walker get up to at 65? Is Ken Walker in a remarkably worse spot than Tony Pollard? Arguably, he might be in a better spot than Tony Pollard.
yeah, this is a huge thing too, by the way, because last week, and we didn't discuss it in, full detail, but last week, the thing about Jacobs last week was there was nobody around him. You can make an argument for whatever you want. We do it all the time ourselves. We put up narratives. We make things up. But
Look, I talked myself into ETN last week because I thought that no one was going to play him, and he was $400 cheaper than Ken Walker. That looked great for about 4.5 hours, or actually like 6 hours, until that 73-yard run from Ken Walker, and it was game over.
Right.
Like, ETN had a good week. It didn't compare to what Walker did, and that was the main guy that I didn't play and played ETN instead. Because that was like the one sneaky move I want to make, and it blew up in my face.
Right, and I don't have it exactly here in front of me from last week, but I do have this week. And what I'm getting to is that last week, Jacobs, there was really no one near him at 6,500 that had what he had in the bag ready to go for the week. Ceiling-wise, I just didn't think there was anything like that there, and that's what I think a lot of the best tournament players thought, and why they jammed him, and some of them locked him last week. So if you go back to this week now, so Tony Pollard is there, looks awesome. The price is only 6,100. Here's comparables for me.
Ken Walker.
Dameon Pierce for sure. Ramondre Stevenson to me is still in there because if they get behind the Jets, if the Jets continue on with this defense and have it there, look, Damon Harris was back last week, and I know their game flow was opposite of what we expected.
Game flow, and the reports were that Damian Harris was going to be out like 3 to 6 weeks, and he came back after a week.
Yeah,
there's no way that he was anywhere near 100%. I think that played into it. But you mentioned the game flow aspect. Like, how much can the Jets really get ahead of you? They can play great defense and keep the
We can keep saying it, but I've said this even when we were here with Tim the other week. Like I still think they're the talented team. I don't care about the Giants as much, even though they continue on themselves. But I'm saying I do think this defense is fine. And how good they're swapping from Mac Jones to Bailey Zappi and back and forth.
I'm not saying that the Jets can't be leading this game the entire way and winning, but I'm just saying what's the most the Jets can realistically be up by in a game? If you play it between when you look at the range of outcomes on everything, get rid of the top 20%, get rid of the bottom 20%, that middle 60% of what is the most likely to happen. They're up 7-3, 6-0.
I mean, they don't have to be up by a huge margin. Ramondre just, to me, still looks good. The old eye test comes through when team watch the games and you turn it on. He looks good. And if there's any chance, I'm just using comparables. I like Ken Walker better there, but I'm just saying when you've got Raheem Mostert, who's underneath,
and Michael Carter
at 5,900, to me, all I'm trying to say is I don't think that Pollard is Jacobs from last week.
I agree with you.
That's what I would say, and I think others should check that out and caution it. Again, we'll see as the slate evolves and things come out. Again, you could play 2 of these guys, you can play 3 of these guys, and make your lineups different that way. Instead of trying to pick the pivot, play them all or play multiples. I'm just saying that's the difference to me, where last week in that $6,500 range, it wasn't like that. You either had to go down to 5K or 4K with a Chuba Hubbard or a Foreman, Gus Edwards, those ones, or you had to go up to the top. Here we have guys that people like in the top, but you could just maybe the play is to play the balanced version of some of these builds, and you will need some cheaper options when you're not going the Ehlinger route, which even I'm not all in on this or something. I'm saying when you go the Tua builds or you go to the other stacks that you want to get to this week, I think these guys will become a little bit more important.
Jacobs, Pollard right now, I mean, the ownership projections are going to fluctuate wildly over the next 2 days.
Yes.
And even last week with Jacobs, they were way off. I just don't think that anyone anticipated that he would get up to be that highly owned, did they?
That was probably the thought process. I mean, some actually thought his ownership would come down, like I said, because the way he was a late swap option in the afternoon. You got to keep that in mind as well. So I know some people definitely thought he would come down, but you were expected to be around 30 to 40. He ended up coming in over that. So.
Yeah. So Pollard this week, the early Run the Sims ownership projections have him at 26%.
Yeah.
That feels about right, because I think there are enough options that we just listed out that people can go in another direction if they feel like. It probably comes in around that or under that, I would say.
I got 25 to 30. I like putting a 5% range on mine, so I got 25 to 30. That's where I think he'll come in, because even if he fluctuates up, like you said, it's going to change over the next couple of days. I think it will be that by the time we get there, people will start to realize the thing we just said and say there is other options here, and they'll slowly come down a little bit and even them out.
So this could work twofold. If we try to stack them up a little bit, and we'll get to this in a second, that if everyone's going to use Pollard, that essentially means that no one is using Dak, no one is using Lamb, no one is using Schultz. Does a Dallas passing attack stack without Pollard create a ton of leverage?
It does, and I love it. And you didn't even say the guy I want to play, the guy that got everyone a 0 last week.
Oh, MG? Noah Brown may or may not play. Probably not.
Even better if he doesn't. But look, he got a 0 last week, so people won't go back. But again, they played Detroit. Detroit has one. Well, they've got a couple good things. Aiden Hutchinson?
Aiden Hutchinson,
right? But that's not who was shutting down Gallup.
It was a CUDA.
Yes.
Why wasn't he on Lamb?
No idea. That's their decision. But the point being, Gallup is healthy and fine. It's just people aren't going to want to go back because of a 0. And even Dak, like you said, when you've got, if no, it's just Dak, Lamb, Dak, Lamb, Gallup, Schultz. And I would just do that use at least 2, stack that up. And you could put Pollard into the Dak stacks as a way to use Pollard. I'm just saying if you're doing 20% of your builds Dak stacks, you can set it up so that 75% of those stacks are to leverage Pollard, and the other 25% of those stacks are to use Pollard in them. And you can do stuff like that as a way to get different on the slate. And you have multiple options covered, where if Pollard sucks, good, you're set with your other lineups with Dak in the passing attack. If Pollard is involved in the Dallas stacks, you've got those set up as well. And then you probably, because that's only 20% of your allocation, using this example I'm giving, you probably have Pollard in 25 or 30% of your lineup somewhere else where it's just him with other stacks. So you really can cover it off, and it's not really hedging as much. If Pollard gets there, you got all that stuff together. Or what if the Dallas offense just crushes and you have everything going your way? You never know.
Yeah, there's a few teams this week where their implied team totals are much higher than what the game totals were going to be, because there's such big spreads. Dallas is one. I think Minnesota is actually projected for the most points on the slate, weirdly enough, just in that high-scoring game, which people are projecting between Arizona and Minnesota. But it feels like people like the Arizona side over the Minnesota side, which is strange because they're 3.5-point favorites. But in terms of like publicly backed underdogs this week, Arizona is the most bet on side of an underdog this week at plus 3.5. And then you have the Eagles. They're just really expensive, but it doesn't feel like they're going to get out of control in terms of ownership levels. Like at running back, Pollard and Jacobs will be 20+%, I'm guessing. That's what the projections show right now. Ramondre, Pierce, Barkley, all in that middle area. Then you have Kamara, Mostert, Ken Walker, Henry, Cook, Foreman, and a lot of those guys. I'm really surprised. Like, are people really sweating James Robinson that hard that Michael Carter's like a non-factor here? I like Michael Carter this week.
I like Michael Carter too, and actually, they just said, the coach came out and just said that we don't even know if we're for sure going to see Robinson this week. So
it's Ty Johnson time.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I don't know. I mean, you can pick and choose your spots. I like Carter a little bit there as well. And I think that you got to keep those guys in mind, Pat, because you kind of just hinted at it in a different way. What I took away from it, at least, was like you talked about the Philly side of things. And what's the complete opposite of playing Sam Ehlinger is to go up to the very top and play Jalen Hurts. Now, the college hardos and guys on Twitter that you'll follow will tell you that Ehlinger is basically Hurts for cheaper. And again, when you've got that much of a discrepancy, $4,300 less, you can put whatever you want in, you subjectiveness you want in there and say that that could be true. But what I'm saying is for a completely different roster construction, and again, the total is not high on the Philly game, but all those points in the total belong to them pretty much. Like they literally might win 38-7 or something like that. So what do you think happens when that happens? You've got to have that stack. And it's the point you originally brought up, going back, why I'm in on him this week is because if you need the 38-point quarterback, it's probably Jalen Hurts on this slate. Don't forget how good he is and how effortless it looks out there every time he plays.
So I wrote this up in the newsletter this week, the Galaxy Brain, bucking the trend, and it was pay up for Jalen Hurts, do the super stack, and then you can bring it back with Najee Harris out of... That's not fun, put it that way, playing Najee Harris at this point, because he looks like he kind of reeks. But... Well, let's see.
He's an interesting one that will be low owned because, again, expecting them to be down, which I don't know how they wouldn't be, is he's going to be catching passes if they get it up tight. Again, Pickett also throws bombs. He has an arm. What that leads to is mistakes made in the end zone, PIs, bang. He just does the old Zeke, runs a couple in, and then gets his 6 for 60 on the through the air and
2 touchdowns
and 2 touchdowns or something like that. Yeah, so Najee could be in play there.
Harris is still 5th in running back touch percentage this season. And, I mean, the offensive line's a huge problem. Obviously, he does not look quite as spry as he did a year ago. But the Eagles allow the second most yards per running back carry after contact. If he can shake one of these defenders, like he can still go. He doesn't have that breakaway speed that I like to target in a GPP. That's why I liked ETN last week. And we did see it.
It was fine. It's just like you said. It's just the way the slate broke that literally the top 3 running backs were needed. The owned running backs were needed.
But Mostert's like that too. Mm-hmm. He is a guy who can shake it. Like he gets to the edge, he can go. Yeah. And he's gone. Harris really isn't that guy. It's sort of the opposite of Derrick Henry. Where Derrick Henry is most definitely, it's like 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard. Chubb is another one. 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 80 yards.
The other worry I have about Najee is that, there's been, and usually Tomlin has been pretty honest about this stuff, is that they want to get Jaylen Warren more involved. And if they are down, he's also the guy that you would see mix it up as a pass. I'm not trying to, go play him. I'm saying that does worry me, even though I kind of like the Najee angle because it's all game flow. Like that's how it should set up. But also in that game of note, I'm definitely stacking this and I'm playing it. But Pickens has been so solid, man. It's incredible. It's sad they don't want to use him as much at like the end of the game. If you actually saw last week's game, again, I watched everything. It sucked to see his body language. It's almost like he knew there's no plays going to be called for him when the time comes at the end of the game, that it sucks from that, but it's what he can do before that. And Pickett likes throwing it to Pickens. So I do think that's a good spot here again that you could go to him.
$4,700. I don't love it against these Eagles DBs because
fair. But again, when you've got other guys, they still have to look after the rest of them.
Oh, sure.
Too.
And the game flow should almost break their way every single game, which is fantastic news.
The other thing, too, is that, Goddard fits into the Hurts stacks. But if you want to go with Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, like you have a different setup there where you could use it with Freiermuth as well, who you plugged in our lineup earlier. I mean, I like him. I think he's another guy.
Oh, sure. The problem with Najee is I think Foreman's good. Like we saw him in Tennessee last year, looked great. Mm-hmm. Last week he was getting the touches behind Hubbard, played way better than that. Not that Hubbard played poorly, but Foreman just looked a lot better. They were using him in the passing game. We're getting Peach back at quarterback again this week, against Atlanta, the worst defense in the league, and potentially it would have to be no Hubbard, but I just don't think that people are going to glom onto a potential 20-touch running back at $5,300, mainly because what we just talked about, you have a $6,100 guy who people just inherently trust more, and then you have 4 guys right around him in a week where you can pay down and even go up higher, that it just feels like you don't need to save the money at running back this week, so no one is going to save the money, but this could be a fantastic spot. Like, this could be a 18 for 110 and 2 touchdown game for Foreman plus catches through the air.
Oh my God. Is this true? I just looked this up while you were talking about that because it ties into it perfectly. Is DJ Moore going to be the highest owned wide receiver?
Yes.
Oh,
no, thank you.
That is insanity. Then, yeah, I already was going to bring up Foreman later just as a thing because they're still playing Atlanta too. Like, this is just a perfect spot, 5,300. You want that value. I would love to go there and just leverage the DJ Moore stuff completely because the thing about DJ Moore, I think isn't it just a talking piece because there's twofold, which is good for this show as well. But last week, finally had a good game. PJ Walker's the savior for DJ Moore. And then this week, the conversation is trade deadline November 1st. Got to feature DJ Moore to keep it rolling from last week and then maybe push him out and move him like he's still good. Could that happen? Yeah, he's 5,300. They're literally the exact same price.
DJ Moore has the largest negative optimal score of the week. He is in 10% of the optimal lineups, which is not super high. He's behind like Curtis Samuel, for example. But his projected ownership's like 22%.
And I also think I love Run the Sims, but I think that sim could be broke. I don't know how DJ Moore would ever be 10% to be optimal on a full slate.
I think it's because the lack of options that we have right now.
Maybe, but but I'm just saying, think about the season he's had. I
think it's drawing so much. Like the 3 receivers this week, points per the top 4, because Tyreek Hill actually comes in even in points per dollar at his inflated salary. Garrett Wilson is the best points per dollar wide receiver on the board at $4,200. I don't buy that.
No Corey Davis.
No, yeah, but now Elijah Moore's back.
And they don't like him. He wanted traded.
Yeah, but Zach Wilson likes him.
That's true.
And it's showcase week, like you said, with the trade deadline coming. You got to feed these guys.
Yeah, that's true.
But he's the best points per dollar player. Hopkins is second.
Yeah.
Then it's DJ Moore. Then it's Chris Olave. So when you run these and this is why he'll end up getting really high in terms of the optimizer, because points per dollar, he's going to rate out really well. When you just bake in, they're an underdog, expected to pass more, the percentage of target share that he's going to eat up, like the system is really going to like DJ Moore. I'm kind of with you. But his bust rate it's funny because his boom rate, Chuba Hubbard officially out. Thank you, Paul.
There you go.
Foreman. Fire up some Foreman.
He's definitely in the pool. I don't care what everyone else is doing. I'm doing it.
Okay. So, yeah, I was out on DJ Moore anyway.
I like what we said, too, by the way, not to cut you off, but Foreman, even in Houston, when he got turns to go at it, like, the guy just runs, man. Like, it's solid. So I'm really good with it.
So you have DJ Moore at $5,300. I know this seems like this is another player whose optimal rate is higher than DJ Moore. It's 12%. Again, the numbers... We'll see how that ends up working out.
He can get cooked here, man. Like, there's so many guys in the range.
He can, but the guy in the same game who's going to come in probably half the ownership and is $200 cheaper is Drake London, who is essentially the DJ Moore of Atlanta.
He's getting a little steam, actually. I was going to say there's other guys. I'll tell you one play I like. I know it's ugly, but if you didn't want to go to Henry, the $100 more, you can play Robert Woods. Well, Bobby Trees, man.
Now, he's on Cuss' fantasy team, and Cuss was bragging to me that he had Robert Woods in.
Oh,
I was like, why do you keep playing Robert Woods when you have all he goes on about is how stacked his receiver core is? But Cuss likes to make fantasy decisions like, well, this guy was good like 5 years ago, so I need to play him over my actual good. But he keeps playing him over Tyler Boyd for no reason. He'll probably end up playing Tyler Boyd now that Jamar Chase is out. But for a season-long life, I was like, Robert Woods has scored like 11 points once this year.
Yeah, I like this.
And you can run all over. And we don't even know if Tannehill's playing. I expect him to play, but I don't know. I just don't want any part of that passing game.
But when people are so high on Henry, and for good reason.
They're high on Henry, but it's not like Henry's like busting through the ownership charts here. Like, he's a very reasonable amount of, he's like the 7th highest owned running back.
Yeah, it's the way it works. I'm just saying, just the thought process thing. Like, if you go with a Hurts stack and you need savings,
yes,
instead of people saving with a $5,300 DJ Moore there and fitting some of these mid-tier value backs in, you go to Foreman, and then you can't get to Henry anyway, so that's the version of the Ehlinger Henry lineups that work so well. You've now got it set up differently with a Hurts stack where you can't get to him. You still get a Tennessee piece that leverages up those lineups, and you double leverage that way, and you set it up there. I think that's, you almost triple leverage if you've got Foreman in it. no Henry,
Washington D.
on that, and put your Washington in. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to go that crazy, but that's the whole point of how you play these tournaments and find your way to the top. You find paths there that are on the same damn track that everybody else is on. We're on the track with you. We're on Tennessee versus Houston. I'm just hoping it's Bobby Trees that eats Henry's lunch, and it's not as likely, but I also have Hurts instead of you have Ehlinger. There's an example in that 2v2 type of setup.
I think if you're going to do that 2v2, that why not just use Nick Westbrook-Ikea?
And it's really like a 3v3, but I'm
less.
saying yes. It's really like a Ehlinger, Henry, DJ Moore, where you've got a Hurts, Foreman, and then Bobby Trees.
Sure. I'm saying, why use Woods? Why not use Westbrook-Ikea?
You can.
And it's way less money, and I don't think that they're that dissimilar at this point.
Yeah, it's whatever you like. It's whatever you feel.
I don't like
about
either one of them. But.
Yeah, I'm just saying I have no problem with it. That's why I like when people are like, oh, who's the best play this week? I don't care. I care about the players. So
the best play this week is Tony Pollard, by the way.
Yeah, if you want to go look at that's how you look it up. Exactly. It's again, not who you play, how you play them. I'm looking for that. How can I build these lineups differently to beat the field? That's all I care about.
Do you have any interest in McCaffrey?
No.
Okay.
Not I mean, again,
neither does the field, by the way.
Yeah, but some of that stuff to me is for good reason.
But there could be no Debo in this game. He's dealing with the hamstring injury.
Yeah, then it
banged up again.
Then it would open up a little more. Yeah, that's true on the Debo side of things. I definitely could see that.
Because no one wants any part of this game. People are like, oh, the score is going to be 9-3. How can we use anything? If San Francisco, the Rams was a shootout, wouldn't be super stunned.
Yeah.
It just all the pieces that you would want from that game are super expensive.
Yeah, man. There you go, though. There's another example. So if you want to get different in your Ehlinger lineups, play CMC. What would the difference be? Again, if people are able to get Henry and Jefferson in, for example, or a Barkley and a Jefferson in their lineup,
you could go McCaffrey and
Cup. Yeah. Run the game stack, run the mini stack. There, you know what I mean? Again, it's no one's on either of them. I don't think many are playing Cup this week either, are they?
Cup I got at 8%.
Yeah, because you have Jefferson there for $500 cheaper. They're probably the same guy, but what I'm saying is when you're talking about $500 there, a couple $100 there, you're just looking for $700 in your lineup. You can find it. Just using again that same example.
I really like Kamara, but I feel like you either now have to use him every week and pray that you get the old school 6 touchdown game from him, or he's the worst play on the slate every week because Taysom Hill is going to steal all of his touchdowns.
And that's the issue. He actually rates out better than Josh Jacobs because he's $400 less in the same game, et cetera, et cetera. Injuries, stuff that they have there, we'll have to wait and see on all of it. But the point being, you don't get the ownership discount. It's not like you're really doing much there. If one's going to be 20%, the other's 18 or 17, it's just you're picking your poison. You're not really doing anything different there. So it's more like, can I go to somebody else in this range, like Jonathan Taylor is $500 more than Jacobs, 100 less than Barkley. If you want to leverage Ehlinger and you think they are going to hand the ball off a bunch and he gets rolling against Washington, he's unowned completely at $8,000.
I would even look down one. What do you make of Swift this week?
Yeah, he's interesting. I was going to bring up the example from last night. I know, for those who didn't watch the game out there, you had the game last night with Baltimore, Tampa Bay was just blitzing them heavily the whole game. So what happened? He chose a receiver, and he used Drake as the checkdown spot. Miami blitzes a lot. It's Goff. They're going to be coming after him. Why wouldn't they? You could see it where you've got Swift getting a bunch of these checkdowns, and then he happens to have a much better receiver than Demarcus Robinson, like Lamar was using last night. He can go to a guy like Amon-Ra. So you could actually just see it where, like you said, you get a little bit unique with this. Save the money at certain spots and get in Goff, Swift, Amon-Ra, and still be able to get Tyreek in there with some of these value plays that we talked about at running back.
Main stacks for the week. Tua probably going to be the most popular one.
Yeah.
The top 3 right now in terms of ownership percentage, not necessarily stack percentage. Tua, Ehlinger, Derek Carr.
Okay.
I was thinking, let's see if this works. Because I used a bunch of Dalton in the Thursday Night Showdown last week. I love Dalton. Dalton is just... he's the same as Jameis. He's the same as I talked about with Wentz last week.
Yeah.
His mistakes are actually beneficial to his fantasy score.
What's the Jameis situation? Right? I know they said they're starting Dalton.
Dalton's
but I'm saying,
starting.
I know that, but is Jameis standing there on the sidelines again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can't play Dalton. Definitely not. Taysom, Winston, anything can happen.
Anything could, but now we're looking at Olave, Dalton, and Troutman's not going to be back, it appears, so you have Juwan Johnson. You want a cheap stack, and you don't want to use Ehlinger? Why doesn't that one make any sense?
No, I just want to use the other side if I'm doing that.
Well, we can, if you use that and you have Dalton, Olave, and Juwan Johnson, you can go Jacobs and Adams if you wanted to bring that back.
I would just put Carr into that stack. Like I said, I don't stack Adams especially without his guy. Like if Adams hits you 40 points to be enough to win a tournament, Carr is smashing. It's just not the same as some of those other guys. He's involved differently. So like to me, a guy like Kupp gets there on those 12 catches for 120 and the one touchdown. It doesn't help Stafford. You almost never see that with a guy like when Adams used to go off even before, it was a part of Aaron Rodgers having a huge game, and it's pretty condensed on that Las Vegas side. And it's also, we talked about it already, it's not like Jacobs is a guy that people are off of this week just because his price went up $1,000. So you can leverage it and still get the guys you want to play. Like Olave is awesome, I think, and he's a fair price, mid-tier, everything. If you have a Carr, Adams, you can go Waller or Moreau. If Waller, we're waiting to see, I think, still on Waller. But my point being, you could still run it back with Olave, or if you like Kamara, I like Olave better in this spot, actually. But just to give an example of that stack, I would prefer it that way and less risk.
Top 4 quarterbacks in optimal rate this week. And quarterbacks are generally very flat when it comes down to this. Hurts is number 1 by a lot. Cousins, Tua, Goff. I think these Goff stacks are where we need to look. I know we legit say that. I say that every single week about Goff. But it's worked like 3 times this year, and it's been you lose all your money when it doesn't hit. But when it does hit, it's fantastic. And this is a great spot for him, man.
It really is, and it's also the same thing, but someone might be tuned in for the first time. We talked about a couple of shows, at least this year, about I always compare it to college football. College football, you get a super flex in DFS. The reason everyone puts a quarterback in the super flex spot is because the number 1 correlation in fantasy football is quarterback, but we don't get to use it on Classic Slate in DFS. The way to use it on Classic Slate in DFS is to, instead of, if everyone's going Tua, and they are, you flip it to the other side. We've talked about Swift. We've talked about Amon-Ra. You can mix in, if you want, some guys like a Khalif Raymond or something. You don't have to because none of these guys are super owned, and you still get to run it back with Tyreek. And
Waddle, who we both just talked about, that they can both get there without Tua.
That is correct. The reason I say Tyreek is not only because he's the most popular one, but also because I think he has more ways to get there. But hey, Waddle even gets end arounds and stuff like that. And again, the reason I bring those up, not like you can guarantee that, is that that is stuff that takes away from Tua, which means he's not as required, and maybe it is his counterpart on the other side in Goff.
Are you surprised people aren't stacking up the Cardinals and Vikings game?
We'll see what it looks like. I'm not worried about this at all because I'm actually in. I have Cousins on my main list.
Because it does seem like Miami, Detroit, yes. Vegas, New Orleans, yes. To me, Arizona, Minnesota should be on the same level as those games if you're going to go like target games. But that does seem to be, at least to this point of the week, the very clear number 3.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, Hurts missing from that list to me is just a huge potential to break this slate because it's a complete opposite roster construction of what maybe 15 to 20% of the field is going to do if they go. I think Ehlinger gets up there, 15%, even in large fields. So
let's see. Ehlinger right now, the second highest projected owned quarterback at 12%.
Yeah. I think, again, not that we talk about this all the time, not that matters, but that's literally like the rake if it doesn't come through. That's huge.
Let's say Tannehill doesn't sit. Let's say he sits and Malik Willis is available.
Not for me.
Oh, that's you want to talk about if they're calling like Sam Ehlinger, was it like discount Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
Malik Willis at 5K or 47K.
$1,000 goes a long way, but it's not even that. It's you can play Fields for $200 more. He's looked okay the last couple of weeks. He does rush. He does have dudes.
He does, but Malik Willis
easy to stack with.
I know Malik Willis is going to do that.
Yeah,
that's all he's going to do. He's going to hand them off to Henry and run, and maybe he'll throw a bomb.
That would be the leverage in the Henry stuff again. But like I said, Henry's not even if he's not in the top 5 or 6 owned, who cares anyway? You're either playing him or you're not.
I would just feel more comfortable playing Willis than playing Ehlinger.
Yeah,
in my mind. I even made this comment to Rob and Cam when we did the spread picture, the best bet show, is if you're betting Tennessee futures, you hope Malik Willis gets in the game, and you hope that he starts the rest of the season. There's no floor with him. He could be absolutely terrible. But I just feel like you have a cap ceiling with Ryan Tannehill at this point. Like, can you win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill? I think the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
Especially on this team, I think this version of the
I think
Giants.
what it does, so this example reminds me of Cooper Rush versus Dak, where, again, Dak is definitely better. We had the Cooper Rush experience. The point being, though, Dak is way more aggressive. And Cooper Rush is much more of a game manager. That's what was when people were talking up Cooper Rush. You had him in there making less mistakes. Dak gives you way more upside and ceiling and all that because of when he is aggressive and gets away with it. It's good. I think that would be the case with if Malik Willis is in the game. It makes me like Dameon Pierce more because I think then Houston has a better chance and I think they get after him and it'd be complete other side of that to say that Houston starts running the ball more and doing more with it. And Pierce already looks pretty good on paper. He's not like he's some sleeper this week. I'm saying that would just make me like him even more in that spot.
Do people still use Rondell Moore?
No, not. And I think he got a little price bump this week too.
Great.
I do.
He's awful, by the way.
Yeah, I think he is. And we have an option there now.
Let's see. All right, so I've maxed out a bunch of my salary here. So I have $4,000 left per player for 2 running backs, a flex, and a defense, which is not great. But Cousins, Jefferson, Thielen, Hopkins, Ertz. Overload.
Yeah. I had Cousins on my list, mainly because Kyler just never comes through. Like, I don't care what anybody says that on the season. It's just so impossible. I know now it seems even easier because you've got Hopkins back and you can just put him with Ertz and then run it back with Jefferson. But that'll be the last thing we end up seeing. Then it'll end up being Rondale Moore week with a bomb to Robbie Anderson to go with it. And you just have the complete wrong guys. Kyler, I'm staying away. Same as, by the way,
what if I get rid of Ertz and I go with Irv Smith and take out Thielen? Now I have Cousins, Jefferson, Irv Smith, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, that's better. That's the side I'm going with.
I can fit Foreman and Pollard in as my running backs. And now I have a wide receiver and flex spot to fill with $5K each.
Yeah, lots of money to spend.
That's not bad.
That's why he's on my list. I like the Cousins side way better. Again, it's very simple. It's Cousins with Jefferson, Thielen, Irv Smith, at least 2.
Who's a cheap receiver I can use for a flex?
Well, you gotta
or for my receiver spot, because I can get back up to one of those like leveled off running backs if I really want to. I mean, hell, you can use Algier if you really want.
Well, you can go to London. You've already got you'd have the mini stack in there, and he's cheap enough.
Do we think they're going to throw more than 15 times in this game?
I don't know.
That's a real problem.
That's always the issue with Atlanta. Just whatever you see this game shaping out like. But again, it's not like they have a bunch of options. So.
Is there, besides Nick Westbrook-Ikena, is there a $4,000 running back or receiver we can use? I don't feel like there is.
I'm just looking at my list.
Terrace Marshall.
Terrace Marshall would be good leverage too. I have him on my list for sure.
Is Diami Brown back? Because Dotson's going to be out.
Yeah, they've got this week, so they got McLaurin, Samuel, Diami Brown, and Cam Sims, I believe, is what they'll be running with.
Oh, Cam the Sims?
RunTheSims.com, CamTheSims.com.
CamTheSims.com?
Yeah, exactly. Throw him in there.
That'll be good.
3,000 min, I think, but I don't expect him to do too much. We'll see.
So you can make the Cousins stuff work with Jefferson and Hopkins.
Yeah, oh yeah.
If you wanted to. Or if you throw him bigger, if he's only 3,500.
Did you have a D in that when you said over 5,000?
I have Commander's D.
Yeah, so I mean, you definitely have options there, no problem. So I got no problem with that stack. There is guys in that 38, 35, whatever range. Like you can find options there. So
let's see who the best points per dollar per the Sims is down in that range. $4,200 Garrett Wilson. Then it gets then we're tough scene here. Paris Campbell, $4,500, $4,300 Noah Brown if he plays, which he may or may not. Pickens, who you mentioned, is down there as well. But there's still Tyquan Thornton against the Jets. I don't like that.
It's probably Terrace Marshall though. $3,500. He's a pivot off the highest owned guy in the slate. This is what I'm talking about when you see these winning lineups. So last week, the optimal lineup had Boyd in it, of course, instead of Higgins chalk. It had Goodwin in it, which no one's getting to Goodwin. I get it, but I'm saying the chalk was Metcalf.
I can get to Goodwin.
No, but last week, Metcalf was so popular, no one was going to get to Goodwin. But I'm saying that it was the right spot, the wrong guy. I'm not suggesting you take all the chalky wide receivers and plug in their loser backups. I'm saying when it happens, though, Terrace Marshall getting there instead of DJ Moore. How many times have you seen it on Sunday where you need a guy like DJ Moore and they're like, oh, Terrace Marshall again? Like, come on, what is this guy doing? That's what you're seeing here in spots like this. I think he's fine at 3,500.
There is an alternative to all of this. Like even if you wanted to play Ehlinger and save that money, Little Dicky style. And even in this lineup where I'm looking at $5,000 left for a receiver and a flex, Van Jefferson's the min. Do you like him at all?
I don't, but like I said, I like Marshall for 2 reasons. But I'm saying you can go there, no problem. There's Wandale is 4,700. We didn't talk about him yet. Pickens 4,700. We talked about Mooney is 4,800. If you wanted something in that Dallas game,
Mooney reeks.
He's not good. I'm saying, but these are all. Garrett Wilson is 4,200. He's fine.
How much is Elijah Moore? Elijah Moore he's 4,700. He's way more than Garrett Wilson. Wow, did not expect that.
Yeah,
I just think that game is run.
Likely, or it's check down to Carter.
Yeah, or check down to Carter. I like Carter is the one guy besides like Ramondre and Carter are really the only two people I have interest in that game, unless it's Jacoby Myers, because I don't think there's a chance that Sauce Gardner's on him.
The other thing, that Thornton price seems good only because on Showdown he was like $7,000 last week or something.
Yeah,
I know it's Showdown, but still, they were like, we got to price him up for this, and now similar spot here with this setup, and he's another guy you could go to.
So let's see. Yeah, he's set to return, designated to return from injured reserve. Van Jefferson, $3,000. And if you do that in that same like Cousins lineup, you can fit Amon-Ra in now if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, but you have plenty of options once you go cheap.
You could put Waddle in if you wanted to. You could put another one of those, like Ken Walker, you can fit into that lineup. And you could even come up a little bit from Jefferson, although there's not a lot of wiggle room there. Like, there's no one at 3,300 who's like, oh, good play.
Need to have him, exactly, yeah. I agree.
So that's a tougher one. The Cardinal side would be a little bit easier, although Ertz gets a little bit more expensive. But at least in this lineup, like, do I have Pollard in it? I do have Pollard in. So I have the three most optimal players of the week in this lineup.
That's what you need to win tournaments these days. So.
And it has Cousins, who I don't think many people are going to be using.
Yeah, the alternative is to take out Hopkins and plug in Robbie Anderson.
Ugh.
And get all the money. It's the same shit, man. We're like, last week you would have said that about Boyd over Chase. You needed both in the end. You could have both. Yeah,
that's a little bit like Boyd actually does things. Like there's still a chance that Robbie Anderson's running 12 snaps.
They traded for him.
The Niners also traded for Christian McCaffrey, the best fantasy player of the past half decade. No one wants to play him.
Yeah, I would. I mean, again, it's just all. I think Hopkins is getting some ownership too. So again, if you could see a spot here, all it takes with Robbie Anderson, he's 4,000, one bomb. Done. Now you got even more money to spend. What if Robbie Anderson beats Ehlinger for $4,000, the exact same price?
Sure. What about there's two guys actually here who are in this like lower $3,000 area. I mean, we saw Damiere Byrd break a big one last week. I have no interest in that. Marcus Johnson and D. Eskridge are both in the mix. And if DK is going to be out, everyone knows it's going to be Marquise Goodwin. They were trying to get D. Eskridge involved in like reverses out of the backfield. They were actively trying to get the ball in his hands. Last week, and Marcus Johnson just on the other side of the ball. He's playing. He's a warm body that the Giants have.
Probably like Eskridge better.
I think I like Eskridge
Go
better
from
too.
DK to DE and plug him in.
Do you think that Eskridge is a better play than Van Jefferson?
I don't like Van Jefferson at all.
Okay, so yes would be the answer to that.
Maybe, I mean, as the week goes on, I'll see, but we still have a little bit of time. But I need to hear more on him. Like, I just don't know what the plan is. Like, what are we doing here with this guy bringing him back? Is he ready? Is it ease him in? Like, what
is it a panic situation where you just feel like you need to bring your guys back now before you lose your season? I don't know.
Yeah, let me see this right quick.
But
yeah, it's actually pretty close because Eskridge shows worse for me right now, but I kind of like the setup of what you'd be doing with that, where you could play him as the guy instead of a Lockett, which most will go to, or a Fant on this slate, who's 2,800 and people are going to play at tight end.
Like Disley played more than Fant last week.
But, exactly, but I don't like Disley either.
No,
I
like the point is like
point.
I don't like Fant.
Yeah. This is why I like spots. Like I said, I don't really care who they are or what they project like as much, because Eskridge to me is you're playing him instead of Fant. And who gives a shit if he projects for 5 points less, because it doesn't really matter when the game plays out. If he's the dude that catches the touchdown, that's 6 points right there. So he beat your little projection on your paper. That makes sense to me. The Terrace Marshall Jr., you talked about Damiere Byrd getting them. We talked about the other guys. Tyler Boyd is obviously better than that crew. But when you have Goodwin and Damiere Byrds and guys like that are getting in the box, could you not see a guy like Marshall get in there instead of DJ Moore? Of course you could. So I got no problem.
Could. Issue with Terrace Marshall is he can't catch, so it's hard to catch the touchdowns when you can't catch.
That's why I would like Robbie Anderson, because we've seen him catch it, and when he does, it's for like an 80-yard bomb. And is it going to happen? Probably not. You have to wait to the end of it, but you get that nice full game sweat where it's the fourth quarter and you're still waiting on it.
There's actually two options in the $3,700 range. Like, I don't know, we probably don't even need to be talking about this because you're probably never going to go here, but Callaway is still sitting there if everyone's still out for New Orleans. He's 3,700. Another big play guy who gets it all in one go if it hits.
Yep.
And then Braxton Berrios is right there too. No Corey Davis. Elijah Moore, who knows what's going on with him. It's going to be very short passing or rushing. They love using him as a gadget guy in the red zone. That's like their number one favorite thing to do. He returns kicks. He returns punts. The Jets find ways to get the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
3,700 is not the end of the world.
I'm in on both. Again, I only play like 5 or 6 guys from down there once I finalize it out on Sunday. But the reason I like the Callaway one more, I will say this, Berrios is fine for that reason because you actually have a guy out. So the injury sets that one up. This is what happens. People try and like pick their guy. And like, I'm going to play this guy, but they have no reason why they're picking him. I want a reason. Corey Davis out makes sense for Berrios. It could happen. They already were mixing him in, even last week. Like just examples there. But the reason I like Callaway better is because Olave is going to continue to pick up steam. Callaway was definitely getting mixed in plenty last week, had opportunities. And I think if that continues, that could be a guy that you could see pop here. So I like him more than Berrios.
Let's take a look at Callaway's snap counts from last week. Yeah, played 72. It was hit. Basically, the 2 wide receiver sets were Olave and Callaway, with Traquan getting mixed in 3 wide receiver sets or to spell one of them. And then you're down to our favorite guy, Shaheed. Touchdown a week, Shaheed.
God, horrible. I don't think he ended up optimal that week after it all.
After it all panned out. But he has scored the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's sort of like a weird, less used version of Braxton Berrios on the Saints. Like they have very specific things that they want him to do, and they're going to give him a shot or two a game, and that's going to be it. He's going to score 0, far more likely than he scores over 3.5 fantasy points. But it does feel like he's the min, I think. I don't want to use him. I don't know why I'm talking about him. Jeff Smith played a bunch last week. Berrios played last week, 60% of the snaps.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, we actually just saw him out there last week, and now it sets up better, in my opinion. The other guy, you mentioned Marcus Johnson. I just don't. I got to wait and see how their injuries all shake out.
We're going to look at Slayton?
No. I was going to look at Marcus Johnson. I was interested in him. But what about Trent Sherfield?
Nah.
Stone minimum?
Stone min in that game that everyone loves?
Yeah. You got to find a way to get different within the same spot, right? So
I think it's just using the Goff side, not using the Tua side. I think that's how you get different in that game.
Tua is definitely way better. It's just so that's why I don't mind. I'm still playing him anyway. I'm just saying I like your angle, and I'm going to go there. I'm just saying I'm going to have more Tua, and it's just you got to look how to get different with Tua. That would be the way.
Okay.
I think that's good for the Miami side.
Yeah, so let's try to rank the stacks here. I think I've talked myself into a Cousins stack. I got to figure out how I can use her. Can we build a Hertz lineup to figure out how this works?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Enter that stupid Eskridge lineup.
Yeah.
In here. I mean, if we're building the lineups on the show,
gotta save them.
You got to save them and dump them into the 400 million person $3 just in case that's the one that ends up hitting 440,000 people.
Oh.
People like dump money into that too.
All the time.
Can't believe it. Like, why don't you find like the $4.20 max to play with far fewer people?
I like the large field tournaments. They treat me pretty well. So just got to play them this way that we're talking about. You got to be different. So what are we thinking here?
Jalen Hurts, $8,300. Okay. There's our starting point. What do we do?
A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith.
You want both of them, or do you want to pick one of them and go with Goddard?
I don't want I want Freiermuth or Pickens. So yeah, you could go let me just see something quick here. Let me see Hurts.
Devontae is 63.
I'm gonna go with Devontae over AJ Brown and
just because the price.
Yeah, and just looks like some of their better games have been together. With Goddard and him together.
All right, so let's go Goddard. Goddard's 5,000. Pickens is $4,700.
Yeah, I want Pickens and then go back to our running backs.
All right, so now we have $5,100. We can hit that mid-tier. We could go Ken Walker Pollard if we wanted to. We could go Ken Walker Foreman if we wanted to. Michael Carter Mostert Foreman, like any of the mix of like those 5 or 6 guys.
I almost 100% want Raheem Mostert because
it gives you the leverage.
You're not playing the other game. You're saying this stack is going to beat that one. So what happens to that game? I still expect Miami to put up points. I want Mostert in this spot.
Okay, Colonel Mostert going in, $5,900. I like Carter more than I like Mostert this week, but that's me.
You can play both. I'm just trying to see
you could most definitely.
So I got Washington D in because we're double leveraging the most expensive quarterback versus the least expensive and using that.
So now we have $5,700
with three spots.
Running back, wide receiver, and flex.
I just can't decide on Pollard because we just named like 5 pivots around him. We already have a pivot in here, but we said Walker and Pollard. Walker, Pollard, and Mostert. If you just play them all together.
I think Mostert is a level below that. In terms of, like, I would put Pollard and Walker on a similar tier. I think that Mostert has far more bust potential.
Yeah. Walker is fine. I think I would leave, I don't know, like I said, I think I would leave Pollard out. That's what I'm trying to see here now. Like,
well,
if I went,
I mean, you could go, I would put Pierce into that mix with Pollard, and I think that game flow could hurt him. And same with Stevenson, game flow. I mean, his game flow is probably going to be fine. So Stevenson's probably into this mix too.
Dang. You can do I got a full game stack lineup here. The ones you love, the 5-man stack.
The 5-man. Why did you just throw Freiermuth into the flex?
No, I actually got to Najee. But I think like Kenneth Walker is better, like you said. So I would plug him in. He's $400 more.
I mean, then you can go Foreman, Curtis Samuel if you wanted to.
Something like that, exactly. Yeah.
Let's see. Curtis Samuel's 53. Foreman's 53. Still got money left over.
Oh yeah, we like Foreman actually. So let me.
I like Foreman. Like, is there a reason, especially now that we know that Hubbard is out? Is there a reason not to like him?
Let me see the version I can get to with him because this could be better.
I threw him in with Mostert and Walker.
But now, if you wanted to plug in Pollard, still, it wouldn't be as bad. If you, I mean, it's not that it was bad.
I need to find $100 if I want to plug in. Then that means just. DJ Moore actually fits this perfectly, but I don't want to use DJ Moore. But it's $5,200 for a receiver.
This lands me in a dead zone too.
Let's see: Allen Robinson, Drake London, Rondell Moore, your boy Michael Gallup.
Oh God, is this a real thing? Let me just see. Oh no, it's not. I'm short.
Oh, you know what? Here we go.
Found it.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hurts, Pollard, and Walker with Foreman in the flex. Devonta Smith, Pickens, Claypool.
Claypool?
There's the 5-man.
I found a better version.
All right, let's hear it.
I got so it's, can I do the whole one? Whole lineup?
Leave out the defense.
Okay.
Let people use their imaginations.
Hurts, Devontae Smith, Goddard. Run it back with Pickens.
Okay.
You get Mostert in there because you're beating the Tua stack. This is just talking through the thought process. We like Foreman, and he's leveraged to DJ Moore. So you're playing him.
Do you think he'll remain that way now that we know that Hubbard is out?
Oh, sure. He'll still go up some, but it doesn't matter. Like, again, what we've noted is that there's 6 to 7 running backs there, so you have to pick the ones you think are good. If DJ Moore is still going to be popular, I like that angle anyway. I get Kenneth Walker instead of Pollard, and then I get my guy Robert Woods as the leverage spot in the middle there, Bobby Trees. I love it. This is a good lineup.
I don't know if I can do that. That Bobby Trees is tough.
It is a little bit ugly. I want to see something else though. If we go to AJ Brown,
well, if you have $5,400, yeah. I mean, I would in that spot. I know it's like getting the leverage off of Derrick Henry, although I don't think he's going to be that highly owned. I do think that Curtis Samuel is just a better pick in that spot for like the same price. Like if you're just playing a one-off, that's whatever.
Okay, then this is why I'm the king of this.
Okay.
Guess what? Swap out that lineup I just had. You can take out Devontae Smith and Bobby Trees.
Yeah.
And it's the exact money for A.J. Brown for Devontae and Westbrook Akini for Bobby Trees. Now do you feel better about it? That's your guy, man.
It's not my guy. Yeah. I think he's the same as Woods, who I think sucks, so that's not good for me.
Oh, gosh.
But throw Callaway in there.
You got to pick the spot. Yeah, you can do that too.
Throw Callaway in. He's going to be an underused part of a game that people do want to stack up.
Is he 37?
37.
Oh, I love
so we have money
now.
left over now. We can actually turn Mostert into Pollard if we wanted to.
Man, we can't give away the whole lineup. I got the perfect spot here. Let's just say if you play Braxton Berrios.
Okay, instead of Callaway.
And use A.J. Brown instead of Devontae Smith, don't tell people what the defense is.
I think they know what the defense is.
Well, maybe they do. I don't know. I'm just saying. Now you have a lineup you'd really like. This is how you win a Millie Maker, something like this. And you get lucky with it.
Oh, and you have the best quarterback.
Yeah,
who no one's playing.
We've upgraded to his wide receiver 1 with his tight end. You run it back with Pickens, who we love, no problem. We've got Foreman, who we like, Mostert, who we like, and Walker. We're just not using Pollard.
With this lineup construction that we just did, you can turn Mostert into Pollard if you wanted to. You have $300 left over.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. That's exactly it.
You could use Pierce if you wanted to. You could use, actually, yeah, that would work. You could now switch to Jets D and use some running back correlation in your flag. Actually, you're using Barrio, so that probably doesn't work out
You're
well.
fine, man. You got options here. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So either way, that just shows like the Ehlinger builds are going to look awesome because they can fit everything in them. But in these large field tournaments, if something like this goes off and Hurts is if it's 38-6.
Yeah, if Hurts scores 40 points, which is most definitely on the table for him,
Yeah.
you're going to need Hurts.
You probably need him based on builds like this will be out there that can just crush.
All right. I think we're good. I think we talked. I feel better about this slate now.
Yeah, it always helps frame it up. So it's, audio, video doesn't matter in the end as long as we talk through it. I think it comes out better for everybody.
Completely agree. Tambo, what's going on at Run Pure Sports?
Keep crushing, man. NBA aficionado now.
Yeah, you're the biggest tout in NBA.
Yeah, I get people ask me for my picks every night. I keep saying it. It is a sales pitch too, but same time, it's not. I am using the tools. I'm using runpuresports.com. They have playbooks, heat maps. I go watch the Up to Lock show with JSU, especially JSU. Big T's on there, other guys, but JSU knows these rotations. He got me on this guy, Livers, the other night.
Who?
Exactly. Isaiah Livers, 2% owned. Play him. He made sense. There was injuries that were there, kind of like what we're talking through, this type of stuff. He just knows who fits in. I use that to fit all the studs, put some correlation there based on the stuff on the site, and boom, I hit. And the same thing the first night. It happened to be a 2-game slate where it's easier to kind of manipulate it, but because it's more game theory over on FanDuel especially, but just in general, all the stuff is there that you need. You can use promo code RPSHeater25. Get yourself signed up for a monthly plan, 25% off.
It's pretty good, 25% off.
It's already cheap, and it's every sport for one price. That's what I love about it. You start mixing into these random sports, and that's how you find winners.
Follow Pat Mayo for Euro golf picks. Looking good through 2 days. PGA picks, not so hot. Euro, I think I've hit I bet Euro once every 3 weeks, and I've hit 3 winners in the past 3 months.
Yeah, that's insanity. I think it's the hardest one to bet of any tour.
I think it's the easiest one to bet because you never have to take the favorites.
You just get crushed at the last day, though. Your dreams are always crushed. You're like, I got 2 or 3 guys in the mix. I feel good. Last. And somehow they shoot 8 over after they just went incredible for 3 days. It just makes no sense.
RunTheSims.com/Mayo. CamTheSims.com on the Commanders.
In your Ehlinger stacks as a run back.
In your, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, my God.
Come on.
I'm not playing, I'm playing one Ehlinger lineup because we just built it on the show and I put it in. But
FOMO, baby. Let's go.
I don't care about the FOMO. I lose enough that I don't care that if I don't win. If it means me playing Sam Ehlinger and losing all my money because I didn't play him, I'm okay with that. I'd rather play Hurts.
I like it. Probably better off.
And figure it out that way.
We just figured it out. It looks pretty good.
It doesn't look horrible.
We made it 6 different ways. It looks awesome.
Those mid-tier running backs are interesting this week.
Definitely.
And the thing is, you probably don't end up on a lot of them if you use Ehlinger because you end up paying up.
Oh, definitely. That's what I said. Once you go Ehlinger, you can fit one of or both Barkley and Henry. You can, again, go mix in your Jacobs plays easily if you like Jacobs at 7,500 this spot. Kamara, you're definitely paying up at running back just as much as you are in the other spot. But that's, again, the fun in the Ehlinger builds is if you just flip it and go Ehlinger builds with the cheap guys.
Apologies for no video. Hopefully we can get this figured out by Sunday. We're waiting for a piece of equipment to come in that burnt out on us, that was not localized, that we can't just go to the store and grab it. So hopefully that's here. If not, we might try to fudge something together anyway on Sunday evening. Maybe I'll try to do it from my home studio, not the big studio, but that's not quite as fun because we've been watching football here all day anyway. Regardless, I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching and listening. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!